emotive, using subtle but lauded imagery, Murugayan wrote highly intellectual poetry. By 1970s, with the ideological controversies raging but not as much as the earlier, there came into a group of poets in both progressive and non- and anti-progressive fronts who were able to make a rich contribution to the growing corpus of Sri Lankan poetry. Among the poets, one could notice Sivasagaram, Nuhman, Ponnambalam, and Jesuraja, Jayapalan, and Shanmugam Sivalingam. Mahakavi, Murugayan, and Nuhman maintained the balance between their sensitive and sympathetic view into the realities of the poor and downtrodden people in the Tamil society. Their attention was drawn to the great need there was in Jaffna for a number of lyrics in the subjects of social and cultural reforms. Mahakavi, in one of his poems, The Chariot and the Moon, confirms the cruelties of the caste system of Hindu society in Jaffna. The suffering of the poor, ignorant low caste people under the atrocities and oppression of the high caste people touch many poets. Low caste people were not allowed to go to the temple at Mavatapuram in Jaffna, and people who tried to enter massacred. These experiences make Mahakavi to explore his revolutionary ideas in a humanitarian view by using his language of fire. He mentioned again and again that the untouchable man is also a human being. He came a youth of lowly caste, a human being, kin to those who spread their wings to touch the moon, the kin of men who spread his wings, rayed in pain on the bloody dust. Here we can see that Mahakavi juxtaposes the great achievement of the Western man and the extreme backwardness of Eastern man. When all Westerners work together beyond boundaries to land man's name in other planets, our people fight among themselves and die for tribal matters in the name of religion and caste. The same theme of superstitious beliefs and cultural conflicts in Tamil society is treated in a different way by the poet Murugayan in his poem Ancient Burdens. Through his powerful language, he highlights social problems and conflicts in the name of culture, which bears its antiquity of 2,000 years and refuses to change its in time. 20 centuries of ancient baggage heaped together, slung across our backs, we began our journey. To sip the unwanted, collect the gem. To more ahead, we don't know. 20 centuries of burden, conflicts in the name of culture. Till the 20th century, Sinhala poetry followed an unself-conscious tradition which did not pursue originality. During the second half of the 20th century, with the emergence of the free verse, there was a dramatic change in the form and content of the Sinhala poetry. The riots and insurgents in Sri Lanka after the independence were ruthlessly suppressed, and the incidents that followed had shaken the poets out of the romantic dreams. For example, Reverend Mahinda's poetry could be termed as an expression of national and religious revival that came into being with the 20th century. He revolts, "I will go forward killing all the oncoming foes. This is my manhood. This is my dharma." During the 60s and 70s, the poets like Sri Gunasinghe and Gunadasa Amarasegara presented a revolt against modern society in all its forms, against traditional norms, conventional social values, popular religious beliefs, and ritual and traditional system of education. The traumatic experience of the 1971 insurrection when the young people took arms against Sri Lankan government in the belief that they could institute a new and better social order. The expressions followed the trials of the leaders are everlasting in the minds of the readers who read Parakrama Kodithuvakar's poem Caught in Quarry of a Revolutionary. In a series of statements about the accused, the teacher complains of his subordination and rejection of values, and religious instructor states about his irreligious attitudes, and the doctor who isolated from the burning problems of the country, and he diagnoses him as a neurotic. Turn me not into a snail, my feelers chopped off. Turn me not into a coward by preaching of gods. Turn me not into a buffalo burdened with false views. Allow me to question like Socrates. Gamini Della Bandara was another poet who describes about the Sandas and Nisandas school of Sinhala poetry. And few Tamil poets emerged and they spoke about ethnic war and violence. Following the ethnic riots of 1980s in Sri Lanka, the lives of Tamils were inexplicably changed, and these changes were reflected in Tamil poetry. And we can note that Vilvaratnam and Ahilan, in some of his poems, they have portrayed the internal displacement. And the human destruction and the cruelty of war is one of the themes of the Charan's poems. And by reading his poems, we can clearly understand how Tamil people were suppressed by the government. And Sri Lankan women's contribution to the development of Sinhala poetry and Tamil poetry is very unique. And at the same time, he told me that time is very limited. So it's my duty to give me my conclusion. After this, when we read through the Sri Lankan Tamil and Sinhala poetry in translation, we can come to the conclusion that the poetry of Sri Lanka has been highly effective in providing the people with needful inspiration and necessary insights. For Sri Lankan, translation of poetry from Tamil and Sinhala into English become a powerful medium through which they convey to the whole world audience not only their desires and hopes, the enthusiasm and empathy, but also a nation's history as it moved from social conflicts to ethnic riots, from ethnic riots to freedom fights, from freedom fights to displacement, and from displacement to the task of reconstructions, which further involves situation of failure and dissolution. Thank you.
தமிழ் விருப்புற்று இங்கு குழுமையுள்ள தலைமை உள்ளிட்ட அவைக்கு என் சிரம் தாழ்ந்த வணக்கங்கள். உலகமே திரும்பி பார்க்கும் வண்ணம் மிகச் சீரோடும் சிறப்போடும் நடைபெற்றுக் கொண்டிருக்கின்ற இந்த உலகத்தமிழ் செம்மொழி மாநாட்டில் நம்மையெல்லாம் இங்கே நிற்க வைத்திருக்கின்ற நம்முடைய தமிழக முதல்வர் அவர்களுக்கு முதற்கண் என் நன்றியை தெரிவித்து என்னுடைய தலைப்புக்கு நான் வருகின்றேன். உலகிற்கு அறங்கள் கூறிய ஆன்றோர்களில் குறிப்பிடத்தக்கவர்கள் தென்னகத்து செம்மலாகிய திருவள்ளுவரும் சீனத்து செம்மலாகிய கன்ஃபியூசியஸும் ஆவர். நாட்டில் அறம் சீர்குலைந்த போது அமைதியற்ற காலகட்டங்களில் அற இலக்கியம் படைத்து அமைதி காக்க இருவரும் தம் படைப்பை படைத்துள்ளனர். இவ்விருவரை பற்றி இங்கு ஒப்பு நோக்குவோம். இவ்வாய்வின் நோக்கமும் அதுவே ஆகும். பிறப்புக்கும் எல்லா உயிர்க்கும் என்று பிரபஞ்ச உயிர்களை எல்லாம் ஒன்றுபடுத்திய தமிழரின் உலக அடையாளம், குறியீடு, பண்பாடு